Today, I'm excited to have Alexis from California on the podcast. Alexis, it's good to have you.
Yes, Deborah, thank you for having me.
So, Alexis, how did you and I get connected?
Well, I've been following you on social media and reading your books, and I've communicated with you a few times on Instagram, and I've done a podcast with you before in the past.
Yes, your name and face are very familiar. I was just telling you, it's kind of fun to see you in different stages of life. I think you've been a follower for quite a while. Am I right in saying that we even connected before you had kids?
No, I
No,
wish.
okay.
I needed you before that too.
So it's been a few years. And how many kids do you currently have?
I have three children,
And what are their ages?
2, 3, and 7.
Okay, so you have been in the parenting thing for quite a while. Okay, so three, two, three, and seven. So tell me, what is the main question on your mind that you want to talk through?
I would like to talk about how do I know if I'm being an emotional monitor when I'm not allowing them to figure some things out on their own. I grew up not feeling like my emotions were important or validated. I was off How I would self-soothe was just being by myself, and um that was just how I coped. And so I don't want my kids to feel that way, but I don't want to be too overbearing, and always showing them a feelings will. And also on the days where I feel like I'm on survival mode and I'm struggling with personal things in my life and I just want to just shut down my brain. But then of course I have kids that have really big needs, and they always need, water and a million snacks.
Yeah.
And or they always have these emotions where they feel hurt, they feel sad, or they don't want to do something. And I'm trying to be validating in the time where I feel kind of like this tension in my body, my chest feels heavy, and I feel like I just lack the patience. And I just some days I'm just so excited just to meet my bed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a really normal part of being a mom. I definitely have those moments as well where it's like, okay, I feel done for the day. My tank is empty and it's time to be done? So, okay, so two-part question. How do I help my kids with their emotions but not be overbearing? You mentioned showing them an emotions wheel. Is that something you actually do on a regular basis?
Not on a regular, but I did write a book years ago about feelings, and there was a feelings wheel. So my kids like to point to the different feelings, and sometimes they just like the color.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do talk
Okay.
about it, just not every day.
Okay. That's good. So you don't want to like overdo it, but then you're also working through your own capacity, your emotions. You're not going to have good days all the time. And I think there's two parts to the answer that correlate to both questions. Number one, we do need to learn to express what's going on inside of us to others, but we also need to learn to express when we need space, time, and distance. And both of those are forms of emotional expression. Like when your child is feeling sad and you approach them, they have two options. Option number one is to say, I'm feeling really sad right now. Let's talk through it. Option two is, I'm feeling really sad right now and I could use some time alone, right? Like you're allowed to express both sides. You can have this need or this need. I can I can process this emotion with someone, or maybe I need a little bit of space to process this emotion with myself first. And I think both of those options are healthy and good. And I think you have to remember that you also have two options when you're struggling. Option number one is to lean into the distraction of parenting because sometimes that's what's before us, you know. So I'm feeling this way, but I'm going to lean into the distraction of parenting, connect with my kids and their needs. Option number two is I need some space to process this emotion and to ask for that space, to let your family know what you need, to let your kids know what you need. So there's always two options, and I think both of them are healthy. What's unhealthy is when we don't address them, we don't address the feelings build, the pressure builds, and we explode, right? So that's what we're trying to avoid. We also want to avoid complete isolation, where with your, like you said, you don't want your kids to always pull away when they're feeling something. But I think that's a little bit different because that type of managing of feelings, there's no expression involved at all. It's just I feel a certain way and I disappear to deal with it, you know, versus, hey, I'm feeling this way and I could use this thing. Here's what I feel. Here's what I need. And it's really important for kids to be able to identify here's what I feel and here's what I need. It's really important for mom to be able to identify here's what I feel, here's what I need. Because sometimes it's, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I could use a hug. Other times it's, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I could use some space. And we don't know without asking. We don't know until someone expresses that to us. And so I think you can start by modeling that idea of here's what I feel, but also here's what I need. Because those two things go hand in hand. And sometimes we express the feeling part, but we don't necessarily express what we need with the people around us. So they just do what they think we want them to do, but it might not be what we need. You know, maybe if your child is sad, you go and they tell you you're sad and they tell you they're sad and you then sit there and sit with them and kind of smother them because that's what you would want if you were sad. But that might not be what they need in their sadness. And this, ironically, the same in marriage. Sometimes our spouse gives us something that they think would be helpful when we express a feeling, but what's helpful to them is not helpful to us. And so it really makes sense that we start to think through our feelings as this is what I feel and this is what I need. So that your kids have permission to say, thanks, mom, for checking in on me. I could use a couple minutes. I could use a little break. I could use 5 minutes to myself, you know? And then, you know, going back to your first question of how do you know that it's not too much? I think by giving your children the space to address that, to acknowledge what they need, for your kids to know that they can say, hey, mom, I actually need a few minutes right now. I really just need to be alone, you know? And how do they know they can express it? When they see you expressing those things in a healthy way. So question one and two, they kind of go together, you know? What do I feel? What do I need? What has it been like for you navigating the emotions of the 2-year-old compared to the emotions of the 3-year-old, compared to the emotions of the 7-year-old who's now at a different age and stage with emotions, you know? Well, what have you noticed between the three? Do they have different temperaments, demeanors, ways of expressing their feelings, and what does that look like?
Yes, they're very different. Their personality, like with my firstborn, I thought, parenting is so easy. Why do people make it complicated? And then
Yeah.
I had the rest, and it's not like that. It's like I gave birth to Stitch, very hyper, destroying things, smiling, love you. And I had became a mom that uses the backpack leash now to keep them alive.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, you thought you'd never do that, right? And here
yeah.
you are. I
So
understand.
My oldest, she is very smart and calm, and confident, but at the same time very sensitive. And I noticed it's when she's tired or when she's hungry, um, and when she really wants something, and I'm telling her that she can't have that right now. Sometimes she's okay and sometimes she's not. And I question myself, should I compromise, or am I making it a big deal, that she's not really that heartbroken, um, over something minor? And with my other two, my middle child, my son, he calms down by physical touch. If I rub his back when he's crying, oftentimes the 2 and 3-year-old are fighting over the same toy. And so I have them take turns, but sometimes the 2-year-old's like, no, we're not, it's just mine. And so that's really hard. I have a hard time calming down my 2-year-old. She's a screamer. She was born screaming.
Yeah.
And so I'm still having a hard time calming her down. And that's something I'm still working around. Like sometimes picking her up helps, or showing her a book that she likes. She likes books, and sometimes books calm her down. Um, yeah, I try different things. Not everything works.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the truth. And I think it sounds like you're navigating it really well. I think you just have to always remember emotions are a signal. It's a signal. And remind your kids emotions are a signal. They are signaling something that we need to pay attention to. So we pay attention to it in different ways. Of course, you're always going to address the physical needs first. Do you need a snack? Do you need a drink? Do you need to go to bed? Do you need a hug? Do you need some love? Do you need some physical affection? What do you need physically? And then, of course, the emotion itself is the signal. And sometimes it's a signal of frustration, it's embarrassment, it's jealousy, it's hurt. So helping them identify, hey, what was that all about? What's going on underneath there? Let's talk through it. But you don't want to talk through it at the height of the emotion because I've mentioned before, but when we're at the height of our emotion, our brain is functioning out of our amygdala, our emotional response center, and it's not functioning out of the logical part of our brain, the cortex. So in a way, when we're at the height of emotion, we kind of go offline logically. And I think that's part of our body's way, our God designed body, to make sure we're paying close attention when we're feeling a big emotion. Pay close attention. And the goal is to bring our body back to baseline. So, helping your kids with all of these different ways to bring their body back to baseline. Do you need a snack? Do you need a drink? Do you need a nap? Do you need a hug? Do you need space? As they're getting a little bit older, just some time to go calm down. What do you need? And when they're young, you're going to give them suggestions. Maybe this would help. Maybe this would help. Let's try this. Let's try this. As they get older, hopefully they begin to recognize, oh, I actually just need this, or I actually really just needed to sleep. How are you paying attention and responding to the signals? That's sort of what you're trying to teach them to do for themselves. So I guess, when you say, is there such thing as too much? Well, I think I would lean towards saying no, but I think the strategy might be too much. Like, am I always going to pull out the emotions wheel? Not necessarily. Do I always need to talk about what they're feeling right in the middle of the big emotion? Not necessarily. Do we need to sit down and have, talk about all the different emotions? Not necessarily. But to remember that emotions are a signal. What is this signaling? And then when we bring their body back to baseline, it might be a good time then to process. Hey, what was that all about? What were you feeling and what did you need? In the middle of a big emotion, I think to ask your kid, hey, what do you need? What do you need help with? Sometimes they just need help. There's a problem, they don't know how to fix it. There's no solution in their mind, and the solution is to have a big temper tantrum or an emotional outburst because that's their version of a solution at 2 and 3 years old. And you come in and offer them different solutions because at 2 and 3 years old, they aren't able to say, well, this is what I'm feeling and this is what I need. So you're helping them to say, this might be what you're feeling, and maybe this is what you need. Let's try that. By age 7, though, I'm sure she's at an age where she's able to start saying, hey, this is what I feel, and I think this is what I need. But you have to remember that you're allowed to do that too. You have permission to do that. And it's not hurting your kids when you do that. It's modeling to them that they have permission to do that too. I just think of the other night when one of my kids came in after bedtime. They're already in bed, they come back out for something, and I had to remind them this is mommy's time and daddy's time to fill up and recharge. And we love you. We put you down. It's time for you to go back to bed because we need space. We need time. We need to talk. We need to pray. This is important. And if you still want to talk about it in the morning, we'll talk about it as soon as you wake up. It's okay for us to be able to tell our kids, this is what I'm feeling and this is what I need. And sure, you could feel guilty about that as a parent, but I see it as we're modeling to them what it looks like to pay attention to the signal and respond to the signal in a healthy way. Do you feel like you give yourself permission to do that?
Um, yeah, I feel bad if it seems like I do it too often. So sometimes I try to push through and pray to give me this to the joy, or even if it's just so small, like reenacting a book, singing a song, or tickling, or hugging, or just a moment where they feel seen, or even if it's just I could play just 3 times of hide and go seek where they felt like their need was met, even if I'm like physically feel like I can't. I try to do it where I'm not pulling out the card like, what I say is mom's gonna take a very long pee. But they figured out how to open the door with their play knife, so that's not
Right.
really a hiding place
These
anymore.
kids are like little MacGyvers.
They're like, why are you
That's so
spending time by
funny.
yourself? That doesn't sound fun.
Right. They don't get it.
Or
Right.
if I'm trying to have
Exactly.
a relaxing bath, they're like, "Oh, you want to play spa?"
Right. You're right. And I think there's a way that you can explain it to them that doesn't hurt their feelings. Mommy needs to recharge. Mommy has a battery, just like you have a battery. And you recharge by going to sleep. You recharge by eating healthy foods. You recharge by playing. Mommy recharges in these ways. And I just need a minute to go recharge my battery so I can come back strong and energized and recharged. And that type of language is for the little ones to understand. It's not offensive. It's like, oh yeah, mom has a battery and she needs to be recharged. We all have a built-in level of energy that we also need to recharge. And I think that's even better than just, disappearing into the bathroom because then they don't even understand what's going on and they're not fully aware of, oh, okay, we should go keep ourselves busy for a minute. And it is harder with the 2-year-old, obviously. Your 3-year-old's getting to the age where they're starting to understand this a little bit more. And so that's why you also have to ask for help when you need it from your partner, to ask for help from others when you need it, to rely on healthy distraction, giving your kids something to play with for a little bit so that you're not feeling like you have to constantly be on when you're also dealing with your things. And then making the most of the time that you do have to fill up and refuel in healthy ways, making time for counseling appointments, making time for walks, making time for healthy nutrition, making time for your time with God, your time with good friends, the things that actually fill you up and help you get through your own healing journey because you want to be the healthiest you can be for them. I used to feel guilty about that stuff when I had one child. I still felt guilty when I had two. The moment the third was born, something flipped in me that was like, this is not a luxury. This is a necessity, for me to be healthy and filled, because otherwise I can't do this well. Otherwise I'm too depleted to do it well. And by the fourth child, it was just routine now. It was just, I know when I get to a certain capacity, what I need and how to communicate that to the people around me and find ways to prioritize it with no guilt.
I guess it's just the lie sometimes that you hear in the outside that, moms are supposed to be superwoman and moms don't get breaks, or you just need to suck it up and do it. And so yeah, so I think when I try to give myself permission to rest, not like just napping, but mental rest,
Yeah,
it feels sometimes uncomfortable, like I'm doing something wrong, or to other people's eyes, I'm not being productive, or it's not it, yeah. And so I had to get familiar and train myself and get comfortable with resting and knowing like that's not something that's not unproductive. It's like something essential for me to be like a better mother, and
absolutely.
and to show up and to also remember, and that also improves my memory and my focus.
When you're there, when you're present, when you're filled up, you're more present, you're more efficient, you're more productive, you're more fun, you're more energetic. So it is essential. I agree with that. And I think, it's funny because sometimes we neglect our own emotional needs. What do I feel? What do I need? We neglect our own signal. And then we find ourselves almost like hitting a wall where you then have to check out by scrolling for 20 minutes or by turning on the TV and vegging or by being present, like you're there, being there physically, but not mentally and emotionally. You're just completely like checked out mentally because our body's like, pay attention, pay attention. What do you need? What do you feel? What do you need? What do you feel? And the more we just ignore that, sure, you might be going through the motions, but you're checked out. So, in my mind, what's better to check out intentionally so that you can fill up, or to just remain checked out all day? And that's, you're not intentionally filling up and, you know, being available. I think it's so much healthier, better for you, and better for the kids when you make it a priority so that when you're there, you're there. You don't want your body like hitting max and then ending up just vegging in ways that aren't productive for anybody. Not even productive for you. Like we could scroll for 20, 30 minutes, even an hour, and you leave the end of that scrolling and you're like, okay, I still don't feel that filled. And now I still have all these things that I need to deal with. So really being productive with what do I feel and what do I actually need to fill me up right now? What is going to leave me feeling more filled in this moment? And teaching your kids that same thing. What do I feel? What do I need? So maybe the missing piece to all of this is just an extra question when you're interacting with your kids and when you're interacting with yourself. Seems like you've got the what do I feel part down. What are you feeling? What do you feel? What do I feel? Now what? What do I need? What is that feeling signaling? How do I pay attention to that signal and respond to that signal in a healthy way? For your kids, it might be, okay, this is what you're feeling. Maybe you need a snack. Maybe you need some time to relax. Maybe you need a little nap. Maybe you need a hug. And for you, it's what do I need? Maybe I need to ask for help. Maybe I need some worship music to fill me up right now. Maybe I need to go for a walk, put everyone in the stroller, go for a walk so that I can just move and have a distraction. Maybe I need some time alone with God. Maybe I need to go pray. maybe I do need to go to the bathroom because I've been holding it for 3 hours and it's, like I'm not caring for myself. Like, what is it that I actually need? And how do I respond to this signal in a healthy way? And I think talking your kids through that, showing them, hey, this is what mommy's feeling and this is what mommy needs, is a really important way for them to start catching on to that.
The emotion I've been trying to get my daughter, to be okay with, which my oldest, is being bored. She
Yes.
doesn't like that feeling, and I told her, I didn't have all this technology before when I was a kid, so I would, sing in the fan, um, or just stare, and um, I wouldn't have just all these things that all the kids have access to nowadays.
Yes, you're right. Bored is the body's way of signaling for us to find something productive to do or something creative to do. It's one of those two things. That's your body's signal to you. The same way lonely is your body's signal to you to go connect with God or go connect with someone else. You don't ignore the feeling. You don't feel bad about having it, but you do have to realize it's a signal, and then you get to respond to that signal. I can't wait to get my new children's book into your family's hands and, for you guys to be able to talk through all the 13 different feelings. And what I really appreciate about Anyday Emotions is it helps kids connect what they're feeling to something in nature. So guilt is like the quicksand, and you feel like you're stuck and you're sinking. Jealousy is like the tornado, that's just whirling around in your mind with envy, comparison, and lies, and just you want more than you have. And each feeling is connected to something. Anger is the volcano. There's always pressure underneath the surface that just builds and builds. But it doesn't just help them figure out what the feeling is, it also tells them what they can do with that feeling. In some of the pages, it gives you like the plan A and then like what to do with it, but what we sometimes do with it. Like, for example, with anger, sometimes we want to just stuff it and pretend it's not really there. But then it goes on to tell you, but here's the best way to deal with your anger is to actually do this instead. So it gives them pointers to help them figure out what am I feeling? And then how do I pay attention to the signal? What do I do with it? What do I do next? Because that's a really important part that kids don't always make that connection. I think parents don't always make that connection. It's like, okay, I know how I'm feeling, but now what? Well, now I need to figure out how to respond to that signal because the feeling is not bad or good, but how we respond to the feeling leads us down healthy paths or unhealthy paths, right? And so, even teaching our kids, it's okay that you feel angry, sad, mad, worried, overwhelmed, frustrated. Those are all okay things to feel. But what you do with that feeling, what do you need? How do you respond? That's what matters. And so, I just think when you're having these conversations in the right way, which you are, you can't get enough of them. It's just a matter of knowing that sometimes the best time to process the feelings is once the wave has subsided rather than right in the middle of it. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes.
Good. I'm excited for you and your family. And I think the takeaway from today is you're doing a pretty good job with these kiddos. So I just want you to know that you're doing a good job with them.
Thank you.
And I want you to be able to feel the freedom to also do a good job with yourself and take care of yourself. You're doing a great job taking care of them. And I want to also give you permission to do a good job taking care of yourself because that's ultimately what is going to bleed into their lives. And for some reason, I'm just sensing in my spirit that you struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I have to remember to wash my face very well, and you know, I don't want to show my leg hair. So yeah, it's yeah, I would say that sometimes that is a challenge, but these past few weeks I feel like I've been getting better at it, and I feel better once I do after I do it.
Yeah. And primarily, physical things are important, taking care of ourselves physically, taking walks, obviously, like the hygiene and all of that routine, going to the dentist, but more so your emotional care. What do I feel? What do I need? How am I doing? How do I pay attention to the signals that my body is sending me and respond to them in healthy ways so that I don't get overwhelmed, so that I don't run out of gas prematurely, so that I stay filled, so that I can keep pouring out to these little disciples that God has given you. There's these little disciples, these little people that God has entrusted you with, and He's entrusted you with them for a reason.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. It was so nice to chat with you, Alexis, and thank you for sharing a little bit of your family with us and a little bit of your journey.
Thank you for having me on.
Anytime. Take care.
You too.